We're out here at Ornery Onion, which was formerly Pawelski Farms, and my name is Stefan Bauman. This is Christopher Pawelski. He's the owner. And tell us a little bit about the history of your farm.
Well, our farm is fourth generation. Originally goes back to Frank and Julia Pawelski, who came over. Frank came over about the turn of the previous century.
So my name is Stefan Bauman, and I'm out here today at the Ornery Onion Farm with Christopher Pawelski. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the farm?
Sure. This is a fourth generation family farm. It goes back to the turn of the previous century. My great-grandfather, Frank Pawelski, who came over from Poland about 1908, I believe. We have copies of his immigration papers.
Mm-hmm.
But he came over and he had a number of jobs first, and then he bought a pre-existing dairy farm and land. And he actually owned a great deal of property, which was broken up.
Why the drastic shift from doing basically a monocrop to changing it to a multiple different crops, like different ones?
Good question. Basically what it came down to was we were having a harder and harder time to sell our product, and last year in particular was horrible. I actually had a very nice crop,
Mm-hmm.
and for months during the height of our marketing season I couldn't sell. And I mean,
That's strange.
September, October, November, and I was told there was no demand, there was no market, and the like. But yeah, I would go to local grocery stores like ShopRite, and I would see Canadian onions there. And basically, onions, in large part, this happened for a number of years. Onions from Canada flooded the market, suppressed the price, and suppressed the demand.
Now, isn't that kind of a predatory practice? Like, why do we allow that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we're in the process of filing some trade complaints. The trade complaint process is extremely Byzantine and difficult, but last year, towards the end of the year, and this year, a number of organizations, including National Onion Association, New York Farm Bureau, amongst others, wrote U.S. Trade Representative and wrote the International Trade Commission, asking for investigations of what was happening. And it's not just onions that are affected. I spoke with growers in Michigan and southern New Jersey, and who they in turn spoke to growers in the Mid-Atlantic states and also in New England, and growers of a number of different crops in a number of different areas east of the Mississippi River are all facing the same kind of pressures from Canada, where as soon as Canada enters the market, the price gets suppressed and demand gets cut as well.
Yet I'm sure they sell it at full price up where they are.
And actually they do. Actually, that's a good point, and that's actually an illegal practice, dumping, and they do. And I have records of what they were selling for in the Canadian markets, the terminal markets in Canada, and then what they were selling for down in New York, and the range of difference was extraordinary. So,
Wow.
but because of that, I took, in the past we've had some losses because of weather. Challenges with weather we've had over the years, major hurricanes, major droughts.
That was about when I came the last time. I think was after the hurricane, and the fields were all flooded, and
Yep.
you got like a hailstorm, or a windstorm, like a week later. It was a rough couple of years.
It's been actually a number of years, and we had some good growing seasons like 2014 onward up until last year, but basically it just was a number of bad growing seasons that led to having us take on loans from USDA, and then last year, because of the fact that I couldn't sell my crop, and then eventually when I did sell, I sold it for a drastically reduced price, and COVID exacerbated that. I ended up incurring more debt.
You'd think COVID would have raised prices, but it had the opposite effect.
Well, what happened was with it, when COVID happened, and I heard this in a number of different examples, like in the case of onions, but I heard other crops, it didn't lower the price, but didn't raise it. Just demand picked up, the price stayed the same, and that's the price to the grower. What the price was in the grocery store, I don't know about that. But
they're pretty standard, and they don't care how much it costs.
But they did not increase the price they paid growers. So what I did have left, it was a fraction of what I had before, and I still, then because of COVID, it kind of dropped off, and then I had to dump actually stuff literally just to get rid of. I gave it away to a guy who's basically for like secondary markets, and I had to just give it to him just to get rid of them.
That had to kill you.
Yeah, it did.
I can't even imagine. It's bad enough if like just doing a garden when a crop doesn't work out, or you can't eat it all. It's like I can't even imagine. You mentioned getting loans through the USDA. Is that an easy process, or is that something that is there a lot of like roadblocks in that as well?
No, the U.S. Well, they're the lender of last resort, but it's a little bit difficult. But they do work with you. USDA does, and USDA personnel are there to try and help, and they do help. But it's not obviously the easiest thing in the world to get it, and debt is debt. So it's just it's a huge thing over your head, having both the debt through USDA and then the debt through these companies that we basically it's my input companies. I bought stuff from last year, my seed or my chemicals, and then I can't pay them. I don't have I didn't have the sales. I can't make money out of nothing. So
exactly, can't squeeze into all these different plants or crops. Has that changed the ability to make money this year, or?
Well, I mean, this is all new to me, so it's basically a test year. So the goal was at least to break even. That was the goal, at least break even or do a little better.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah, so at least that's a good thing. So not making a lot of money, but at least enough to cover our costs, and it's a learning situation. So we did looking like we were going to break even at least, or make a little bit, which is good. The other thing I'm looking to do is I have about 25 years of experience doing public policy work and working on various ag issues from the grassroots level.
Now, is that more locally, or is that in Washington, D.C., a lot of it?
A lot of it is more so national issues. I have worked on local issues and I have worked on state issues, but my primary emphasis is on issues on a national level or federal level. And so I'm looking to do consulting work regarding that, proposals and the like, but basically would focus on the public policy, grassroots development, and how one from the grassroots level develops an idea, then formulates it, crafts it in legislative language, pitches it to some offices on Capitol Hill. How you get to make those contacts, and how
myself included. I think most people don't even know how any of that even takes place.
Yep, and in today's situation today, it's really vital to actually know that. So I'd be able to teach that skill, and then also the other thing that I've done a lot is as far as work with the media, and which is kind of goes hand in hand with the policy stuff. But how to cultivate sources, how to get stories in, how to get your point of view in a story, how to become a source and the like. And again, I have 25 years of experience, and if you Google my name, you'll see I come up over and over and over again. And that's one thing I'd like to also offer, and especially like in a university or college setting. I think either as a guest lecturer or for a class. And like I said, I'm in the process now of developing classes and doing pitches. COVID, of course, has. But the good thing about that is, down the road, is I could then offer these courses or these lectures or presentations via Zoom. So,
like, you think about it, it's true. Like, anytime you notice something, you then notice it everywhere around you, and I guess that includes your dreams too.
Yeah, it's weird. But so going back, the Farmer to Food Bank was something that would really get nutritious food, fruits and vegetables to the food insecure, but it would open up a market to fruit and vegetable farmers that you can't penetrate now, which is people who are food insecure but don't have money. So it's a case of where money would go to the states by the federal government, to the state departments of ag and markets. There would be a portion based on how many specialty crop producers and food insecure in each state. They would then disperse the monies to the regional food banks and state food banks and the like, and they would, for the purpose of purchasing directly from the farmer at the farm gate, fresh fruits and vegetables. So it wouldn't be going to a terminal market. You would definitely be getting produce from your local farmer. So it's supporting local also. And then once the food banks
it's healthier that way too.
Absolutely. And once the food banks get the produce, if they want to trade it amongst themselves, that's their business. So in other words, if they get a whole bunch of onions and they want to in New York and they want to trade with sweet potatoes in North Carolina, they could do that. And they have a network already that exists.
And there's no reason they shouldn't do it. I mean, Walmart already basically has a sweet deal with them, so like if that could get in there with that or even push that out, that would be ideal. Yeah,
so that was one of my numerous proposals. So and I obviously follow up, and then I work in particular extensively with Senator Gillibrand's office. Senator Gillibrand sits on the Senate Ag Committee. She's fantastic. I mean, she's just a fantastic representative of agriculture for New York State, and her staff is it's an incredible staff.
She's very nice. I met her a few times.
Very, extremely nice. And she hires exceptionally smart and motivated people, hardworking people. And then on the House side, Congressman Maloney, who sits on the Ag Committee, another excellent representative of New York agriculture, and his staff are fantastic. And New York is very fortunate now that we have actually 3 members on the House side of the Ag Committee. There are congressmen to the north of us, Representative Delgado, and Congressman Brindisi, who's in Western New York, who represents Oswego, which is another black dirt area. And again,
I didn't know there was more than one.
Yeah, and he's got a great staff as well. So when I was down there, I had meetings with a number of staffers on the Senate and House side, and basically, I pitch my proposals, and then I follow up and I continue to push them. And currently, 2 of them have been introduced, in particular the farmer loan forgiveness, and Senator Gillibrand on the Senate side and Congressman Maloney on the House side are aggressively working to get that included in the next COVID measure.
Is there any way that people could show their support for it, or sign a petition, or anything like that?
Absolutely. If you go to my Twitter page, which is at Chris Pawelski, you can see my pinned tweet is for people to do. It has the phone numbers for their senators, and they can call, and with a explanation of the proposal. And then there's also Farm Aid, was one of there's a number of ag organizations have backed it and have sent letters of support. They have a website where people can do an online petition. They can basically, it's an online email.
That's like farmaid.com or
farmaid.org, and they look for they have like an action page, and you'll see it as described on one of the action pages. And what you're doing is you're sending an e-lobby letter. It automatically finds your member of Congress and a member of the House and your 2 senators, and the letters are sent saying, please, support this, get included. And just recently, there was a call made by Senators Wyden, Booker, Bernie Sanders, and Senator Gillibrand for Mitch McConnell to support it, for the Senate leadership to support it. So it was just a recent press release Senator Gillibrand had.
That'd be great.
And it was really good, and called to support it. So we hope to get it in the next COVID measure. They're going to have to do another measure because,
Definitely have to let me know.
I will, but they have to do something because the economy is not in great shape.
No.
It's crazy.
It's being propped up at the moment.
Being propped up by trillions of dollars that went into the financial services and sector in Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And that basically is just it's
a false picture of what's going on, because most small businesses, myself included, who applied for the PPP program, because even though I'm the only employee because I'm a sole proprietor, technically I'm still an employee.
Right.
So it qualifies, but they have certain stipulations which they said that they would not take into account, but the financial institutions themselves are like, well, Walmart looks like they're going to pay us back quicker. Or whoever they choose to give the money to.
Yeah.
And it's
which in the end, the PPP is going to probably be forgiven. They're going to probably
and that's why the banks are so picky about who they want to give it to, because they want to try and pick companies that will give some. Before they forgive it.
Which is but you're exactly right, and
it's corrupt.
And the economy it's a false picture. They point to Wall Street and the stock market. That doesn't represent the millions of people who don't have work, and the millions of businesses that are on the edge, and the millions of people are going to be evicted once the moratorium completely ends on the evictions. All these things, they come together, and the thing that actually kept the economy going in the last few months was the PUA. That's what that's what people were getting that money, and actually the poverty level went down because of the fact that the additional income that people were getting. And what were they doing with that money? They weren't, it wasn't going to offshore accounts. They were spending it.
Yeah,
it was going into the economy. It's just, and
it makes sense. Like, I mean, even myself, I was working at a doctor's office up until May 30th, and I only qualified for 1 month of that benefit. But in that month, I earned double my salary, which is, they were wondering why people didn't want to go back to work. Well, that's why.
But the thing is, when people got that funding, it went to pay their bills. I mean, that's where the money went. It went into the economy, went back in the economy. It's not being saved, it's not being put away, it's not going to offshore accounts, it's going back into the economy.
Well, even if you save now, there's like no interest gains really, or very little, so it's kind of pointless.
Right.
I mean, you should still save money, don't get me wrong, but so what are some of the crops that you're growing right now?
Wow, I have lots of stuff. I have, I have carrots. I have about 4 different lettuce varieties, radishes, cucumbers, butternut squash.
This looks like some kind of squash right here.
All kinds of different other kinds of squashes, delatico, whatever it's called, acorns, and then I have different kind of pumpkins. I have about 3 or 4 different varieties of watermelon, 2 different varieties of sweet corn, string beans, and I had peas, but they got taken out by the varmints. The peas I didn't really get much out of.
I didn't get a whole lot with them in my garden this year either. I mean, this is my first year doing a garden, but they start growing and they spit out a couple of them, but nothing substantial. Like, I don't know how my neighbor did it, but he had like a whole forest of pea stalks growing up. I'm like,
mine was, the plants actually got mowed down by rabbits, and so when it came back, there was a little bit of them, but there wasn't much. So it was done in by rabbits or woodchucks or something. But the other stuff did really well, and only the carrots are taking a long time to develop, but
mine too.
But the lettuces did pretty well, and I had spinach that did well. The string beans did fantastic.
The romaine that I planted in the beginning of a bunch of we were talking last time I was here, the amaranth. Common weed, and then my landlords were like, no, like they went out and bought tons of it from the farmer's market, which was like, wait, you can buy this stuff? Yeah, I was pulling it out.
But the moment, it's funny, the moment you start to try and grow it, then you have a problem. It's like,
exactly.
When it's a weed, and it's like, and it's easy as anything, and then, because like the lamb's quarters, that's another one, oh, that's great. I'm like, great. It's, we refer to it as silverweed, and constant to pull that out. It's a pain in the rear end.
And the roots are just, like, they're pretty solid too.
Yeah. It's so funny how that works.
In terms of cost of production, like, what would it take to do like a pound of onions, or whatever measurement is the base unit, compared to doing what we're doing over here?
Well, onions, if you're going from seed, the cost of production per acre, and this is just, I should say, this is only part of the cost of production. For seed, chemicals, fertilizer, and labor, it's about somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 an acre. More on the closer to the 5,000 side. It depends how much pressure you have during the season for disease and weed pressure and the like.
And how many acres are you planting on average?
50 acres. So that's just. Then on top of that, you have the other fixed expense. You have your taxes, you have your repairs, you have your fuel expenses, those things as well, which of course add on to it also.
Plus, you got to pay yourself.
Right, exactly. A lot of cases when we do I file a Schedule F for farmer and a sole proprietor, my income from the farm would be roughly in the low to mid $20,000 range. That's what I would get, $24,000 if I was lucky. Some years a little better, some years worse, some years zero. But on average that. But
it's sad that you can't get more for the amount of work that you have to put in for it.
The bulk of the work that produced that onion that goes in a grocery store shelf is done right here on the farm. Only a small part of it is done to get to the grocery store shelf. Yet after me, it's a hell of a lot more money is made than what I make, and so that's why it wasn't. I have an op-ed that ran in the Albany Times-Union back in early January. I think it was January 16th. It was back in January of this year, and it's called, you go on Google and you type in unsustainable disparities.
Unsustainable disparities.
Albany Times-Union, you can read it. And basically it talks about, one of the points it makes is that I list all the people that earn off of my farm, like my employees, the outlets that I sell to, the repackers before them, the truckers who transport it, the chemical company, the seed company, the repair guy, the suppliers of things that I might need during the season, like tools and the like, or other kind of repair supplies, parts, all the governments that collect taxes off me, the local, state, federal level, sales tax, whatever, all those things, all those entities earn off of me and stop earning the moment that I stop farming. And a lot of times the one person that doesn't earn off is me. Everyone else is earning off of what I do, getting something out of it financially, and I'm the only one not. And that's just not sustainable. And what's happening is
That's infuriating.
that, and it's just you can't continue to do it. And what's happening is more and more farms are quitting, smaller farms, and they're being gobbled up by larger entities, and they're consolidating, and basically
And then they're just growing one thing.
and they're controlling. There's no longer a sense of any kind of competition, and there's concentration, and they're controlling, and it's going to get worse where they're going to completely control the price, and it's not healthy for society to have
when I
just
was
a
in
handful
school
of
as a kid,
operators.
like, sorry to interrupt you, but like, I mean, when I was in school as a kid, I remember them talking about getting rid of monopolies and trusts and things like that, and it seems like that's exactly what they're doing all over again.
That's exactly right, and basically that's been going on in a number of different industries, agriculture, one of them, but they've been not enforcing various antitrust laws that are already on the books, and not adapting, and getting rid of a number of them as well.
Like Amazon especially, like, they're gobbling everybody up.
Amazon, it's happening a lot in the tech business, but they have to start addressing it, because if they don't, it's going to be a very bad situation for, I don't say consumers, for citizens. It's not good for the,
and quickly too, because it's gotten out of control even at a faster rate over the past few years. I've noticed.
Yep.
Like, more and more people are talking about, support local business, and more local businesses are still going under.
Yeah.
And it's I think that, yeah, you're right, it needs to change soon. Definitely.
So people can check that out. And there was actually a very good article that detailed what happened last season in Civil Eats, online publication. So if you Civil Eats, one word, Civil Eats. If you go and type in Google my name and Civil Eats, or I think even if you type in Google maybe onion and Civil Eats, the article will be one of the first things that pops up, and you can click the link. If you contact me, if you email me, I can send you the links of those articles. Actually, Albany Times Union did one last year. Times Herald Record, the local paper, did a couple of good articles. And if someone contacts me, you send me an email. My email, Chris P, CHRIS, letter P, at farmroot.org, FARMROOT, one word, .org. If you ask me, you want to see links to these pieces, I will definitely send them.
Definitely check them out. Now, last thing I just wanted to ask you is about the actual Black Dirt region itself. Like, I know the history behind it from talking to you, but for everybody else who doesn't know about the Black Dirt region, what is it that makes this soil so rich and so dark?
It's highly organic matter. It was once all a glacier, and then it was a swamp, and it was a lot of it was cedar trees. It was cedar swamp, and basically all those trees and that matter was broken down and became the soil. And so the soil is highly organic in nature, so it's got a lot of great growing properties.
Yeah, because it stays black even when it's not wet, which is not typical. I mean, this stuff is, you can't get much darker than that.
Nope. It's incredible soil. It grows virtually anything, from artichokes to zucchini. The only thing it's not really good at doing is potatoes, but you can grow potatoes on it, but it's not ideal. But virtually everything else it grows.
Does it lend a flavor to the vegetables that you don't get elsewhere, or?
Well, in the case of onions, the New York Times did a story on this. If you Google my name in New York Times, the link will come up, or I can send it to you. But this is a number of years ago. But basically, because of the sulfur content that's in the onions, or excuse me, in the soil, it leads to the pyruvic acid content in the onions being increased. So
that's what makes you cry when you cut them, right?
Correct. But it makes the onions, the sugar content very high. So when you cook with them, they caramelize. They're perfect onions for caramelization, and they're high sugar content, high flavor. When you cook an onion that's grown, like say in Vidalia area, they're higher in water content, and there is when you cook with them, there's virtually no flavor.
Yeah, it takes forever to caramelize them too.
Yep, exactly.
You're almost tempted to throw ketchup or tomato paste in there just to make it go quicker.
Yeah, exactly. But in the case of ours, it improves it. It's fantastic for it. So it's great for cooking. But they produce just about anything, and really good yields, particularly. Of course, obviously, it all depends on the weather too. If you have too much rain. Now, the soil is you have to have adequate drainage in it. Most fields aren't larger than 5 acres. There's a few.
And they usually have like big dikes going right through them, right?
You have ditches and you have a series of ditches that drain into what's called commissioner's ditches. It was a project that was done in the 30s, a drainage project, and the commissioner's ditches drain into creeks. I think it's 3 creeks that then eventually drain into the Wallkill River.
Okay. I like to reset it. So it drains into the Wallkill River, you said?
Yeah, they drain the creek, one of the Pochuck, the Quaker Creek. They drain into the Wallkill, and then the Wallkill eventually drains into the Roundout Creek, which eventually drains into the Wallkill River.
Now you mentioned the Quaker Creek. Is that place still open, or?
Oh yeah, that's
because I remember that was like
notch.
That was featured on the Anthony Bourdain show when I was still at culinary school.
Bob Fillet did a segment on it.
Yeah, I didn't realize he went up there as well, but I've been there a few times, and it's a damn good butcher shop.
They are a local treasure. And matter of fact, if I have an elected official or staff comes out to visit the farm, it's like that. I usually take them there for lunch, and it's just.
Oh, they serve like actual like on the premise as well. I thought
now,
it was just a butcher.
No. With COVID, I don't know. It's changed now with COVID, obviously, but they have in regular times they have a lunch menu, and they do different things like barbecue chicken or different kind of Polish products, whatever. And they have tables and people sit down and eat, and then of course they have all kinds of Polish products, like you mentioned, including kibasi, smoked kibasi, and they have some great pierogies. The farmer's cheese.
The pierogies are really good.
The farmer's cheese is the best, but they're just a top-notch operation run by incredible people.
And that's like literally right across the street from you.
Literally, I mean, it's like
it's like diagonal right.
It's amazing. I've kept my figure because if you go there and eat every day, you're gonna.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such good food, and it's hard to stop after a little. Bobby Matuszewski, who I went to school with, he's a couple years older than me, and we went to the same high school, and he's just so enthusiastic about his business, and in particular about the quality. I mean, you talk to him, and he really emphasizes the point about how what his expectations are regarding the quality of the product he serves, and it's.
My dad was a chef, so I mean that was drummed into our head growing up too. I mean, it's important.
And you can just see it's reflected in what he produces. So
I'll have to see if he'd be open to doing an interview as well.
Yeah, I think he would. I mean, it'd definitely be worth it.
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you telling us about this area and about your farm and everything that you're doing.
I appreciate it.
And once again, everybody go to, was it farm.org?
Well, it's farmroute.org, and then if you go to, I have a number of websites, muckville.com, muckville.com is my blog. I haven't been blogging actively, but it's my blog. But you mentioned before, like the history of the area. If you go on there and you go in the search engine, you type in National Geographic, it'll take you to a link for the National Geographic story that was done in November 1941 about this area, and I have it scanned on that website. Cool. But I have a lot of the media pieces in the past that we've appeared in PDF files, and a number of links explaining the backstories to a lot of the stuff, like when we were on CNN and the like, and you can go
Mastodons and all that sort of stuff.
And then we created a website for Ornery Onion, orneryonion.com. There's not much on there right now, but there is a link on there. You can go to our Teespring page, and again, the Teespring page, to find that, the main ways, either through orneryonion.com, you can see the link, or if you go on Google and you type in Ornery Onion and then type in Teespring, it'll take you to the links. I'll have links for it. But Ornery Onion Company, muckville.com, farmroute.org is the website for the entity as far as the public policy stuff. And you can contact me directly at chrisp@farmroute.org or evep@warwick.net. And if you're interested in the policy stuff or the consulting or the educational work or the presentations, reach out, and I'd be happy to talk to you. I'm looking to share with, obviously I'm looking to earn money, because my wife says I can't do it for free anymore. But
that's what I was going to say is, where can people buy produce from you if they wanted to?
But the other thing is, I do want to share. I've learned over the years a lot of information and a lot of skills, and it took years to learn. In fact, one quick story: back when we were hit by hail in '96, and my wife and I first got involved in trying to we were lobbying for a disaster aid bill, which we eventually got. It was part of the $10 million appropriation only for the onion farmers of Orange County, only for the years
That's amazing.
96 to it was when it was announced. It was part of the 2002 Farm Bill. It was an oddity to have that, very unusual. But when we initially started to fight for it, we pushed at the time Congressman Gilman's staff to introduce a bill, and they eventually did. They introduced a bill for it, and it was co-sponsored by Congressman upstate. And they tried to tell us, and they just did it to appease us, but they tried to tell us. This wasn't something they did on purpose. They were trying to jerk us off. They were just, we were just so insistent. But that doesn't go anywhere. You want something that has to be attached to something, or it has to be an appropriation measure.
Yeah.
And it has to go through the appropriations committee.
It won't just pass on its own, right?
Right. Yeah. Can't pass that way. So, we didn't understand it. Now I know. Now I'm not going to waste time asking for a bill to be introduced in that sort of way. When it's an it's got to be something attached to another measure, or going through the appropriations committees in the House.
Now, is that the same with most bills that get passed? Like, they have to be attached to some package?
Well, no, but this is the case of an appropriation measure.
Okay.
But in the case of how Washington works, and quite often now, if you want something, you want to get something done or get something passed, quite often, yes, it goes in. It's best if it goes into something else, the whole package. The primary functions Congress has, or duties, is pass the annual appropriation measures. I always forget, I think there's 13 or 15 annual appropriation bills. For defense, there's appropriations for agriculture, and all the
major industries.
Major, yeah, exactly. Education. So what happens quite often is that they'll pass a couple of them, but the rest they can't quite get passed, and then they roll them all into an omnibus consolidated spending bill, and then they'll pass all of them into one bill. And though they're all supposed to be done individually, and all appropriate measures start in the House side, then go to the Senate side. But that's one of the things. But quite often, matter of fact, our onion appropriate was going to get attached initially in the annual defense appropriation measure for 2002. And we were actually told it was, and then it got pulled out at the last minute, and so then it got put into the Farm Bill, which made more sense.
Yeah.
But it almost got into the FY02 defense bill. So
wow.
it's just weird how the system works. But I have a fair amount of experience, and I can share with people.
Definitely keep it up, man, because we need people to do that sort of stuff. We really do.
I enjoy it, and I enjoy working with it. One thing that kind of irks me a little bit, a lot of times people will, and I see people will criticize or give a hard time of the people that work in government and the like. And my experience has been over the years that the people that work, whether they be in the legislative branch or congressional offices, or it be for the executive branch at USDA or other agencies I've dealt with, these are basically people who are hardworking civil servants who are there because they feel like a duty, in large part, to serve the country and do what's best and offer their services. I know, Senator Gillibrand's previous ag specialist, or ag staffer, he was a vet. He gave up in salary a huge amount of money to go to work on the Hill, and he was doing it because he genuinely felt that he wanted to help farmers and help society. And it kind of irks me when people, they're deep state, or they're corrupt, or this and that. And
there's so many conspiracy theories going on now that I don't understand. People are believing stuff that. Okay, there are things that have happened that are corrupt, but there are people just coming up with these wild stories that have no basis in reality, and they're like, "This is the new thing." And it's the thing that I quite often say is that people who go into government, they may want to go in for the right reasons, and then once they get there, it's very difficult to accomplish those tasks because everything is pushed against it. And so it's kind of it's a big struggle just to get anything done in government, especially if you have opposing parties in House and Senate. You're at a constant gridlock.
Well, they're understaffed. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the Hill where I've had meetings in the hallway. There's just no space, and they're constantly having meetings because there's so many constituents and then groups that come in that want to talk about their issue, and I have to give them hats off to them because they I've been in cases of I've seen some other meetings, or I've been in a room where, or in the outer office, and there'll be meetings going on, and it's something where I kind of would, it's outlandish things being discussed or asked for, and the staffers are always patient, that I've always seen are always patient and kind, and listen and are empathetic. And there's a lot of, there is a lot of obstinance in the gridlock, which is frustrating. But what gets me is when people just say blanketly, oh, they're all corrupt, they're all no good, they're all part of this. These are people saying this that haven't been down there and have never actually dealt with. And the thing is, it's a cop-out, because it's easier to say that than to actually do the kinds of things that my wife and I have done, which is, actively, work to, find solutions to problems.
Most people wouldn't even think of that.
Well, the best compliment we ever got was from Hillary Clinton when she was senator, and she told my wife one time, when my wife was serving on her Ag Advisory panel, she said she really admired and respected the two of us, because we didn't just complain like most people do. We identified an issue, we came up with solutions for it, how to argue for those solutions, reasoning points, and so on and so forth. We didn't just stand back and just, which most people do, they'll complain and they'll say this is wrong or so on and so forth, but they won't go the next step of,
Half of them won't even go vote.
But the thing is, just to pick up the phone and you have a problem, call your congressional office local and voice it and say, hey, listen, I need help with this. And most people don't do that, or let alone, say, I got a problem, but what's your solution? What do you want done? And that's really important.
I mean, if you'd be open to it, I'd love to come with you one day and see what goes on in Washington, see how they do it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like when COVID ends.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think that pretty much covers it, man.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's so weird not handshaking
I know,
anymore. It kills me.